I want to recap some breaking headlines here in the insider trading case of hedge fund giant Raj Rajaratnam. We have learned that juror number 2 has to be replaced. Remember, they've been in deliberation trying to come up with a verdict in that case for more than a week now, but that is going to have to begin again. The deliberation will have to start over because juror number 2 will have to be replaced. No details as yet as to why he has to be replaced, but we'll get to that as we learn the story. Our reporters are working on it right now. Joining us now is Seth Berenzweig, a lawyer who specializes in company and executive compliance issues. He's joining us from our Washington bureau. Seth, you've been tracking this story from the very beginning. What does having to begin again in jury deliberations do for the defense and do for the prosecution?
Well, this is a pretty significant development. It's a slight setback for the prosecution, and it's a little bit of an advancement for the defense. When you're trying a long case in front of a jury, you want it to move forward smoothly. The jurors have given up a big chunk of their lives, and they've been in there for roughly 2 months now. If you're the prosecutor, the last thing that you want to see is to determine that you're going to have to restart the deliberations again. We just learned that we have to put an alternate into the jury, and therefore they have to deliberate as a group. They have to start the deliberations all over again. It's about a 2-week delay. That is a slight setback for the prosecution.
We have learned that juror number 2, just for some details here, the reason that she has to be replaced is because of a medical issue. Not clear what that issue is, but she's a 70-year-old retired bookkeeper who apparently has had some medical issues and will have to be replaced. Unclear who that alternate is. But the bottom line here, a slight setback, you say?
It is a slight setback. It's not a crushing blow. It is a slight setback for the prosecution. It was determined the other day that there was a 1-day delay because someone had to go to the hospital for a medical emergency. That apparently led to this. It's a little bit of a setback for the prosecution. Jury will start over. Overall delay on the verdict is approximately 2 weeks.
All right. Well, the reason, Seth, it's fortunate we have you here today to give us this insight on breaking news, but we'd originally asked you to come on to talk about the developments around Goldman Sachs. We heard, Senator Carl Levin and a group there on the Hill pushing the SEC, referring a report that they have conducted, saying that we should look again at Goldman Sachs, specifically the report that found that they misled clients about mortgage-backed securities. Is this paper pushing, or does this actually force the SEC to do something?
Well, this is not paper pushing. This is forcing the SEC and even more predominantly the Justice Department here in Washington to put this to the top of their pile. This is a big deal. This is a cannon shot from Congress aimed at the banks. This is the result of a 2-year investigation. It is unusual after a lengthy, high-profile investigation for Congress to send a referral letter out to the SEC and the Justice Department. This will probably set off a flurry of activity here in Washington. The prosecutors, the United States Attorney's Office within DOJ will be assigned to this, so this is a major development here in Washington. And
Senator Levin being really strong in his language here, also saying that he more or less thinks that the CEO, Lloyd Blankfein, lied. And that, in fact, Goldman Sachs, when he denied that they took these positions not for their own profit, that he was misleading intentionally so. Is he going to face possible perjury charges?
He's on the hot seat. There's no question about that. But I think that the people that are on the bigger hot seat, for lack of a better phrase, right now are his underlings. There is some wiggle room for him in the sense that his testimony was that they didn't take a position solely for their benefit. I think that he's definitely going to be the focus of an investigation here, and he has to brace himself. But the bigger problem are the people that work under him, because there are emails from those people that are bragging and just outright indicating that they have apparently maybe committed mortgage fraud. That's going to be referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office. There'll be a flurry of activity, and there'll be more grand jury proceedings for us to talk about in the immediate future, probably.
Now, Seth, I mean, Goldman probably thought this was over. They had that settlement last year about how they bundled these mortgage-backed securities, but it specifically had to do not with their admission of guilt, but with them saying, well, maybe, the fact we didn't disclose that hedge fund manager John Paulson weighed in on the items going into these products, maybe that wasn't so kosher. Does that give them any kind of protection against any new claims?
A little bit. It gives them a little bit of protection. That was a specific deal in terms of the CDOs for Abacus and things of that nature, and they reached a $550 million settlement with the SEC last year. Those settlements, those charges have been settled with the SEC. So things from that with regard to an enforcement action from SEC have been settled. However, that doesn't let Goldman or its executives off the hook in terms of the DOJ referral, U.S. Attorney's Office investigation, and grand jury proceedings. So it provides them with a little bit of protection, but not nearly as much as Goldman would wish.